All right. Welcome to Worry Week Parable from the Pit podcast. This podcast is a very special podcast. I have my brother, Brian Q. Davis, graduate of multiple Worry Weeks, and also previously on multiple podcasts with me, and a very special guest, a friend of ours, a friend of Brian, who he's going to introduce to me for the first time on the call. But I kind of know him through my life. History and some of my pain, but we'll let the introduction take place by Brian, and our guest is Dr. Ibrahim. And so, Brian, why don't you go ahead and just describe why are all three of us today on this conversation?
Yeah, I will, Coach, and it's great to be here once again. So, again, Dr. Omar and I providentially crossed paths a world away. About a year and a week ago, I saw an article that was published about him on NPR. And it was a story about this surgeon that was practicing medicine in the basement of a hospital in Syria that was currently then under attack and being bombarded every day. And the news story was really bringing focus to the fact that at this point, the war had gotten to such a level that hospitals, places of healing, were being specifically targeted. And it was just this thing that the journalists felt like there was a need to call attention to. But inside of that, she found a story about Dr. Omar here, our friend, and it was so touching to me. I felt compelled to do a podcast about it on my own podcast, and I published the podcast, and I didn't think anything of it. And then 5 days later, I got a tweet message from, it just said, "Hi, Brian, this is Dr. Omar." And I mean, I'll never forget it. I just didn't even, I was just completely blown away. And I mean, Dr. Omar, maybe you can tell the story there. I mean, you searched your name for some reason. You said you felt like there was a reason to call you, but, and we'll get more into an introduction here, but just again, to give the audience the background, perhaps you can just introduce yourself and kind of take it from where the story picks up right there.
Hey everyone, thank you Brian, thank you Sam for inviting me to this meeting. I'm Dr. Omar Ibrahim. I'm a neurosurgery trainee. I'm from Egypt. In 2014, I traveled to Syria and worked as a frontline doctor in Aleppo, then in Idlib, and 1 year ago I moved to Turkey after the war in Syria ends. So I spent almost 6 years in Syria working in field hospitals as a neurosurgeon. I treated many patients or victims of war injuries, mostly brain injury patients. Most of them was children and women. I worked for the Syrian American Medical Society. It's a NGO based in Washington, D.C. It's a group of American Syrian doctors. They helped me get supplies needed for doing my work there. It was hard. It was hard to work at brain surgeries in these situations because there was a lot of difficulties like lack of electricity. The roads was unsafe. Difficulties moving in the city and to get the needed supplies, food. So I'm ready for questions. If you
Okay.
Yeah, well, if you go back to that day, so then how did you find me?
How did you find me? I should ask you, how did you find me?
Well, I mean, all of a sudden I got a message from you, and this is, I think you said you felt a call to Google.
Yeah, I Googled my name. Yeah, I told you. Yes, I remember. I Googled my name. So I found your podcast. So I listened to it. I found me on Twitter, so I sent you a message.
Yeah. And I mean, that was the story was so powerful, but then this connection happened just a few days later. And, I felt really just compelled to just connect with you and start praying for you. we started trying to look for ways to try to help and send supplies, and there's all kinds of chaos around that. And then, just, I mean, it really turned into more of a spiritual support thing of trying to figure out ways to just help you, because I just felt you out there in my heart as somebody that was doing the work that everyone else would run from. And it's just a powerful thing for you to step into that. But I know it had tremendous cost for you to do the things that you've chosen to do. The thing you followed this call that has had tremendous cost for you. And fast forward, I know you eventually got out and you're in Turkey and looking for the next step in your path. But about a week ago, exactly. In fact, I was having a chat with Coach Sam literally that day, June 2nd. And Coach Sam and I were having a chat, and I just felt this call to reach back out to you. And I realized it was exactly 1 year to the day of the podcast. And so then that was where I was, Coach Sam and I were having this conversation about the current state of the world, the current state of the United States, the current chaos that's happening. And I just was thinking, I was like, you know what? There's a man that I know that truly knows oppression and chaos and has stepped into it. And again, Coach Sam was there with me in the conversation. I said, this is an introduction that needs to happen. And that's really where I thought, well, Coach Sam has been so powerful in my life and so powerful in the lives of so many other men. And I believe there's another unique connection here that it just became, I said, hey, Coach, why don't we do a podcast and invite Dr. Omar on and just have a conversation between three men? And that's really how we end up here, Coach Sam.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, you look back at the horror that you've taken place in the past 6 years. When you went to that front line, you kind of knew what you were getting into, but you kind of end up in a place that you had no idea that's going to be hell. And to witness these helpless children ask for help and to be paralyzed, but only almost to operate as the hand of God, right? As an instrument of God to heal what you can and what he wants to be healed. So you're a witness miles away, thousands of miles away, doing the work of God. The reason why we are all here, it's because I felt through the images that Brian shared with me, the images of the children, and it brought back memories of my own when I was a child in Iran during the Iran and Iraq war, and when Saddam was dropping chemical bombs in Kurdistan and Kermanshah, the cities of Iran. I specifically remember I was under shower with my parents for 6 hours under cold shower because we were instructed or else we would get infected by it. And I've witnessed very similar images to the children's that you've operated to, deformalities and death and legs and arm and just horror of not only chemical bombs, but bombs and also rockets. A rocket would be sent, a bomb would take out a house, a rocket would take the entire street, like an entire street full of houses of neighbors, completely grounded to the level. Of course, the news, Twitter, all these things were not there. Nothing. There are only a few witnesses of the child. When I call myself a child of war, it's because I was a child of war. I am the remaining witness. So I've carried this pain inside of me. Like I'm 43 now for years, and there is urge of revenge. There is hate. There is hate against everybody that did not help us. Everybody that took allies with Saddam. There was hate everywhere, right? And it doesn't go away. As a child, when you witness this, it will not go away. It is not personal development, education, none of these. Like there is some horror of war that will forever remain as a scar in your soul. As a witness of that, you would agree with that, with what the past 6 years have done to you carry scars on your soul. And the reason why we are here is to have a voice between all three of us. To have a voice for those children that did not get the chance to speak. If they would be here speaking to the world during this time where it's perfectly set up for us by COVID-19. COVID-19 has put a pause on human momentum everywhere in the world. COVID did not give a fuck if you are Christian, Muslim, Jewish, Black, white, Arabic, Middle Eastern, Indian, Chinese. It did not care. It simply put everything on a pause. There are many bad things that comes with it. I'm not going to get into that, but I'm going to look at the good thing that it did. It allowed us to pause and reflect of what we were doing, because the unfairness of what took place in Syria and the children that were killed daily, thousands of children that were literally raped and killed daily, which no one knew about, no one talked about, no one protested against that, was an unfairness, as an injustice that God himself said, no, I'm not going to tolerate this. And so there it is. There's a pause on human momentum, and review what you have become. Review literally who you have become. Because you're not serving me. I don't know who you're fucking serving at this point. And it is times like this that is important that we become a voice for the children that died 30 years ago in the chemical war, for the children that put the warrior of God Band-Aid and went and under the mines and the tanks, and their only job was to clear the minefield. And in exchange, you would get a key around your neck. I wear the key at 9-year-old. It's the key of heaven. Khomeini will give the key to heaven to you. Says, hey, you will go to heaven. Here's the key. In Farsi, it's Kilida Behesht. You go. And there you go. What do you know at 12? So you go. You go in Iran now, in every house, there are pictures of 4, 5, 3 young men, ages from 13, 16, 17, known as martyrs. Their own parents today would say, martyrs of what? That I gave my children for what? For corruption and whatever is taking place right now. And that's not only in that country or this country. It has evolved. It has evolved worldwide. It is here right now in the United States. The evil and the corruption is everywhere. And as a result of it, many lives are stakes. Many lives matter. And children's lives matter. So we decided to have this conversation, not to point finger at anyone, not to blame anyone but ourselves, that we have tolerated this injustice, this unfairness. And the only thing we have done is some level of unfair reaction that is often irrational, that comes with hate and blaming others. Literally, the Middle East for the past 60 years have been a game of blame. The Palestine conflicts have been nothing but a game. This could have been resolved 60 years ago. 60 years ago. There were proposals on the table that made sense. But we have created this idea of just separation. And literally, in that country, in Jerusalem, the source of all religion itself, it should be the last place for separation. It's the place, it's the land of unification of all the 3 beautiful religions. But no, everybody has an argument, right? And they have data to present it, and they have charts, and they have groups, and they have association, and they have the mullahs, and they have the clerks, and they have Pope, and they have this guy, and they have the synagogue, whatever. We have forgotten a simple language, the simple language of all, which is the language of compassion. And what you have demonstrated as an adult in the past 6 years in the front line, like the only thing that kept you going was nothing but this love that comes through you that is known as compassion. So we are here not to say what took place, and we acknowledge that what's taken place for all of us, Brian's life as well. So much pain that is endured and is seen. But we are here to become the voice and continue to become the voice of the children's that did not get the chance to talk, to speak. So Dr. Omar, I'm gonna go to you, and if you can share with us some some memories. If you can share with us like literally, this is an opportunity to allow, the voice to come through you and speak for these children that you witness paralyzed, some dead, and some shocked, and messages that they might have shared with you in their most hurtful moment. I mean, if you can share some of that here through you, hoping that this will touch hearts, right? Our goal is to distribute the message as much as we can and continue talking about this. There are hurt people everywhere today. And there are children that are hurt, unfortunately. And the more adults are hurt, the more they will hurt children. And this vicious cycle will continue. And so if you can speak the language of the children that you've witnessed, what would they say, some of them, Dr. Ibrahim?
Thank you, Sam. As you said, war and living in a war area and seeing this victims every day leaves scars in your soul. So when you have this on a daily basis, you just don't have time for your soul to heal. I remember one of children I treated was a 6 months girl. She has a small shrapnel, a very small shrapnel, a few millimeters penetrated into her brain and causing brain hemorrhage. She came to the emergency room convulsing and in coma, and we did CT brain. We found a big bleeding in her brain. So we rushed to the operation room and did operation on her to evacuate the hemorrhage. And luckily, 2 days later, she was healthy and awake. She was drinking milk as a normal child. So when you see the family of the child, they don't know what happened to children. They can't believe that this small child can kill her baby. So you just don't have words to explain to the parents, to the baby, what happened. And when you see this on a daily basis, you have to stay calm to hold yourself together and can do your job as perfect as needed. I remember a few months before the evacuation of Aleppo in 2017, a man came with a very big shrapnel. He was a young man, 13 years old. He's a big shrapnel penetrating his brain and injuring main blood vessel in his brain, and he was almost bleeding to death. He's almost exsanguinated. So we give him almost 4 liters of blood. And I operated on this man for almost 4 hours. I just said, this man, we will save this man. We will not let this man to die tonight. So we operated on him for 4 hours, and we tried to salvage and repair the main blood vessels that was injured in his brain. And luckily he survived, but with some deficit in his lower limbs. He can't walk as normal. So this is a few stories I lived. I also saw children killed by shrapnels in wombs, by newborns killed. 1 or 2. I saw children killed in their in mother's womb with shrapnels. I also saw victims of chemical gases in Khan Sheikhoun in Idlib. In this attack in 2018, almost 200 people died because of chemical bombing with sarin gas. Some people said it's chlorine, some people said it's sarin gas, but almost I saw patients suffocating. There was no injuries, there was no other injuries, no shrapnels, no bombing, just gas, just patients just inhaled gas, and you're just seeing the patient with secretions coming from her mouth, and he can't breathe. Some patients needed ICU, we can save them. Some patients died just after coming to the hospital. These are the stories I can remember now.
Thank you. And we'll come back a little bit, and we're going to go to Brian in a second. But I do want to mention that, having witnessed the war myself for 8 years, horrific war for no reason, literally no reason. 2 neighbors that loved each other for years, for like no reason whatsoever other than political agendas. And whatever, Iran and Iraq attacked each other. Till this day, the people love each other. They're like, I have Iraqi friends. Throughout the war, we had the friends. It was never against the people. But unfortunately, 8 years and million plus debt. Then the war in Lebanon, the civil war inside of Lebanon, what took place in Syria, what is happening in Palestine, the children of Palestine, and that horror that has continued over 40 years, and many more wars. One of the good things about COVID-19 is it seems like, or it looks like, the war is not going on. Perhaps the killing continues, but it seems like something somehow has stopped. And if we come back and we continue to kill each other in wars because of the demand of men to serve the interest of men, then we have not learned anything from this war. And then the children that have died daily, that majority of us here in America are not aware of, because there's no interest for the news to begin talking about that every 5 seconds. There's no interest for anyone to share that pain on their Facebook page as they are doing now. We are sharing every 2-3 seconds a news that is brought out to absolutely ridiculous news that somebody has attacked a restaurant and stolen a cheesecake, or they've stolen 2 sneakers, or they burned this. Absolute minor issues versus major human issues that has always existed. Injustice, unfairness, and this unfairness and injustice to the children. It's not only the killing in war zones, but it's the raping, the pedophilia, and the sexual abuse of children across the world by a network of people that are evil, the end, that find pleasure in hurting other people. And ultimately, these people are being exposed. So we are guilty, all of us, for not sharing what was going on 2 years ago in Syria, for waiting and listening to the news once in a while, for putting our head in the sand. And today, because of what's happening, because we are frustrated worldwide, there are manifestations for justice. There's manifestation for equality. But we cannot be hypocrites. We cannot be hypocrites. We cannot just simply fight for races, the colors, and the difference. That's such a minor issue versus the higher, bigger issue, which is a separation. This separation has taken place between cultures, between religions, and between organizations that give themselves the permission to kill children. The corruption is at the worldwide organization that is supposed to be the humanitarian organization, but that are doing the minimum, which is the compliance. And God knows the people in the front line are working so hard, but the politics on the top are driven by agendas and that are corrupted, or else we would be stopping the killing of civil wars, the horrors of civil wars. It will not go away. I kept saying that there's a major difference between soldiers fighting soldiers and civil war, because civil war includes women and children. Civil war has raping, violating, has entering in people's house, burning people's house, killing people in their own house while they're sleeping. That is civil war. You are sleeping, it is 2 a.m, the siren goes on, the planes are on the city, and the bombs are being dropped. 4 minutes later, you are no longer there, or your neighbor longer are not there. And the horror for the children to remember these images of putting tapes on the window so the windows don't shatter because of the sound of the bombs remain in the mind of the children for the rest of their fucking life. And the thirst for revenge. Well, who will give these children the water to drink to satisfy the thirst for the revenge of the brothers and sisters dying in front of them? That's the pain in Palestine. The horrors of civil war, which is something that we have started attempting here. Currently, as we speak in Dr. Abraham, we have a bunch of idiots that have actually taken the capital of Seattle, 6 blocks, and they've called it the Chaz capital. And because they're fucking very pampered, not only they have secured 6 blocks, but now they're asking for vegan food because they're hungry. This is the kind of idiocy we are dealing with. And on the other extremity, we're dealing with lives of children as part of humanity. The demands are hypocritical.
Yes.
That is the problem.
Yes.
Ryan.
Yeah, that's exactly it. I think that's the lack. I mean, it's things aren't in congruence. There's no integrity in any of this. But Dr. Omar, the thing that strikes me about you, I mean, you went to this place you did not have to go to. You stayed there longer than you had to, I would imagine. Like you could have left, you could have figured out, you could have stayed 1 year or 2 years, but you stayed 7 years in this place doing this work. And where others picked up a gun, you picked up a doctor's coat and a stethoscope and bandages and drills, and you brought your knowledge there to heal instead of where a lot of people were going there with bombs and weapons and an intent to fight. And in some level, that's what we see right now in the United States. I mean, people are really easy to pick up that's what Coach Sam was talking about. I saw a thing they're talking about, they're telling the police to commit suicide. They're throwing things at them and these guys are having to stand. I mean, it's all from a place of hate and anger and fear, but you did something different. And that is what strikes me. That is such the rare thing. So would you mind sharing what you mentioned? You have to keep yourself calm, like in this chaos for the parents. You mentioned that you went there. Can you just share what you felt pulled you there? And then in these moments of chaos where horrible things are happening that frankly, nobody in the United States for the large part can even fathom. And their complaints would not stack up against. But yet you went in that place. Can you just share what you feel called you there? And then when you're in that storm, what was it that sustained you for that period of time?
Yeah, thank you, Brian. So when I first came to Aleppo in 2014, there was no neurosurgeon in Eastern Aleppo, the part that was held by the rebels. So I was the only neurosurgeon. All the patients was suffering from brain injuries are sent to Turkey, and most of them were dying on the roads because it's almost 2-3 hours to reach to the Turkish hospitals. So most patients don't withstand this time to reach to the Turkish hospitals. So I started to think how I can reduce the number of patients that may need to be transferred to Turkey. I was alone. It was a large number of injuries for me to treat by myself alone. So it's hard to when you can choose. If you have 3 or more patients, you choose which one you can operate, which one that's not likely to live. So this hard time, when you see 1 to 3 patients, you choose one of them to operate. That one was most likely to survive. So, and this was on daily basis, bombing hospitals, bombing markets, targeting civilians, massacres, large number of patients coming to hospital at once, 20 patients, 30 patients, 3 or 4, 5 of them are head injuries. And I was alone. I was the only neurosurgeon in Eastern Aleppo. So I have to do all this work myself. I have to care for the CT scan. If you don't have CT scan, you can't operate on this patient. Some patients I operated without CT scan. You just try to salvage what you can do. When you have your instruments, you don't have enough instruments. If my drill is not working, it's broke down, I have to use a manual drill. It's very hard manual work. So I have to go for all this, and I have to follow patients in the ICU post-operative. We don't have an ICU doctor, so I have to work as a surgeon and an ICU doctor. This was on daily basis, much stress, so much stress. And if you just take 1 day off, if you just at one day you said, oh, enough, I can't do this anymore. I can't do this anymore. This can cost patient life. if you just stopped one day, this can cost patient life.
Wow.
So I couldn't leave. I couldn't leave.
Yeah.
So, Dr. Abraham, let's talk a little bit about, and this is, I think, it's a beautiful topic to talk about. It's like, what brought you into that place to begin with, right? So let's go back a little bit, my friend, and let's go back to Egypt, right? And so you were a kid. You played probably soccer in the streets of Egypt. Maybe like me, you would play with sandals on, and then when the ball gets near the goal, you would just kick the sandal so the sandal could kick the ball and kind of out of your frame and go in the goal. And it's like, yeah. So then you decided to be a doctor. Did you always knew that you wanted to be a doctor? Or was your dad saying, my son, if you're a doctor, you'll make the family very proud?
No, just in the high school, I just decided I
Okay.
want to be a doctor. Yeah.
In high school. So then I assume you studied
I wasn't a
12,
nerd.
14 years to be a neurologist?
We have 7 years medical school,
4 years specialty?
6 years medical school, 1 year internship, and 4 years specialty in neurosurgery.
Okay,
In Egypt.
so 11 years.
Different from country to country. Yes, 11 years.
Okay.
12
So
years.
all these 11 years you were in Egypt.
Yes.
Okay. So then by the time you graduated, how old were you?
From medical school, I graduated at 25, 26,
Okay.
25.
So 25, 26, I'm sure your family was very proud. They had your picture on the wall and say, they talked to their relative, my son, the doctor. I'm sure they said that while you were in biology classes, the beginning. But anyway, the day came, you were the doctor, the picture is there. They're proud of you. Your family is proud of you. What did you want in life for you at that time? Like, what was the future that you were envisioning? Did you envision opening an office, working in a hospital? Like, what was the life that you dreamed at 25?
Like any medical students, you just finish your medical school, start a good specialty that you love and that makes money. And you finish your specialty, start looking for private clinic, private hospital to work in and start making money and making family. That's it.
Okay. And so that was obviously successful dream, respect the doctor and so on. And what brought you to Syria? Like how many years after this happened, like what brought you to Syria? Take us through the, because you kind of knew where you were going. It's not like it was total surprise, right? You kind of knew that you were going in a dangerous place. It's not that you're coming here to Hollywood in Los Angeles, California, and you work 9 to 5. And no, you were going to a dangerous. So what brought you there, and what made you make that choice, my friend?
In the end of my specialty, I was reading, surfing the Facebook, looking for news about the Syrian revolution, Syrian war. I saw. I was surfing some pages of NGOs working in Syria. I saw there was posting an advertisement requiring surgeons to work in Aleppo, orthopedic surgeons, neurosurgeons, vascular surgeons, the rare specialties of surgery. So I think that I can go there and help.
Did you talk to your father about this? Your brother, your sister, your parents? What did they advise? They told you not to go. Like, what was the conversation?
No, I didn't tell them frankly. Actually, I told them that I'm going to work in Turkey. They won't approve it. So
you already know their answers. You already know. Okay, that is the point that I'm trying to get at, right? So you have left the comfort of your family, your country, your status as a doctor in that country after studying for 11 years. You have left all that. You were able to let all that go because there was something calling you in Syria. It wasn't a job. It was it was almost like God has spoken to you and say, go there and serve. That's it. Like, there's no argument around it. And you did what you've just felt. Once you were there, how was how hard was the first 6 months, Dr. Abraham?
The most hard is the completely different environment, completely different circumstances of work. Not the hospitals that you see, you used to work, not the operation rooms. Even in Syria, they're studying medicine in Arabic, so they don't use English terms. So I had to learn some medical terms in Arabic to be able to communicate with the doctors and the patients. When I go there, I found no supplies that I can use for doing my surgeries, brain surgeries. So it was very hard to cope in the first 1 or 2 months. The CT was broke down. There's no CT scan.
Were the hospital
medication-
bombed? Were your life in danger? Was your hospital bombed?
Yes, all hospitals. There was no formal hospitals, normal hospitals, just field hospitals, like just one floor over the ground, and most operation rooms and the ICU rooms were in the basement. And we used to sleep even in the dormitory for doctors, restroom for doctors were in the basement. So it's different environment. You work in the basement for almost 1 or 2 months to sleep in the basement. You can go out.
How do you take care of yourself physically? Because if you're weak, you don't sleep enough, your immune system is weak, and you're, in an isolated area, lots of diseases. How do you take care of yourself? It's just the will of God, or there was something that you can do?
I think you start to accommodate to the surroundings. You know when is the most dangerous time to not go out. You know that when they start pumping at 9 a.m., at 10 a.m. So you try to go out if you want to have a walk. If you want to buy something, you go out as an early morning, 6 a.m. And the late night, you can go out for a walk, for a little walk. You don't pump at late night. So you start to accommodate to the circumstances.
So many nights you spend at the hospital. Many nights you didn't sleep.
It's different. The work is emergency. You don't at any time you can get a patient. You start to sleep and you found just half an hour, 1 hour later you woke up, you got an emergency patient. So
were you in contact with your family, or it was difficult to be in contact with family and friends?
At first, it was difficult because they were using satellite internet. It was very slow. It's not good. Later, they improved. You got normal internet, so it was easy to improve. No cell phones, no satellite, no cell phones network. It's not working. You just use the internet to communicate.
Oh, harsh time. What about now, Dr. Ibrahim? Do you plan on visiting back Egypt? Do you plan seeing your parents? Like, what's next for Dr. Ibrahim now?
Actually, I couldn't go back to Egypt because of my work in Syria. There's
political?
Something political, yeah.
So you are in Turkey now?
Yeah. And my father died in 2017.
You did not get to go. You did not go. You did not get the chance to go see him in his funeral.
No.
I'm sorry to hear that. In Turkey, what would it take for you to continue to help in hospitals? Does it require certification? What do they require?
At first, you have to learn the language. Yeah.
Okay.
It takes at least, if you are very good, at least 1.5 years, 2 years to be very good at language. Yeah.
But the fact that English, doesn't that help to be in more English spoken, like touristic?
No, actually, Turkey is a very national country. They study medicine in Turkish. They study everything in Turkish, work in Turkish. So even being good in English is not an advantage here.
An advantage here. Are there organizations out there that could use doctors in other areas, in Africa, in places where you can just go and serve?
I try to communicate with different NGOs, but this was not successful.
I think we have a number of doctors in here in our association, and some of them have been deployed internationally. This would be an effort that me and Brian could put together, and of course, COVID-19 is not helping anything to move post-COVID as we're moving towards that. I do feel in my heart that there is going to be there's many places that are craving for your services, that want such help, especially right now. And I think it's a matter of just broadcasting and communicating. So, Brian, what are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about that you have a very unique set of skills. I mean, there are very few neurosurgeons in the world that have had the number of reps that you have had in terms of and under intense pressure. So, if I was obviously a medical medical provider, I would be very interested in someone with your level of reps. And so Coach Sam and I will do what we can to spread that word about that you're available, and that, but more importantly to me, it comes back to, I mean, you're very inspiring to me. And I know Coach Sam is someone that stepped into the chaos on purpose with a heart to heal. Like you say it kind of flippantly, like, oh, I saw a Facebook ad and I just felt like I could help. Well, that's kind of like I can go across the street and help somebody too, but you chose to, as Coach Sam alluded to, you left so much behind, including sacrificing being with your father. And I mean, I know you lost some loved ones in Syria too. I guess, man, I just want to just express to you that, like, there are a lot of people beyond the people that you have served that will be inspired by what you have done. Not what you have said, but what you have done. And it is an example, it's a model. Now, I know you're just a guy, and I know you've got a bunch of stuff that you're struggling with, and like frustrations and fears, and like any of us, right? And I guess there's two things. One is I just want to communicate to you that you're not alone. Like, you're not alone. Like, we're with you. We got you. Spiritually supporting you from 1,000 miles away, whatever it is, we've got you. Number two is that just know that your light is going beyond the people that you served. You directly, physically served people. You saved lives that will ripple throughout the universe forever. But even now, when I think about it and I look at the chaos around us, and it can make me depressed, and I'm sure it can make everybody's reactive and depressed and angry and all this kind of stuff. I go back to, I think, what does it really look like? And what it really looks like is the war that you were dealing with. That you had, it was not even your war. You just went to help. It wasn't even your country. You just went and you knew there were people suffering and you stepped into that. So, that to me, as Coach Sam, the weapon of compassion is actually the answer to all of these things. The weapon of love is the answer to everything that's going on right now. And your willingness to go heal people that you may or may not have had an allegiance to, may not have meant anything to you other than they were a human being. That core act is people are going, how do we solve all this? We need to pass a law. We do this, that, and the other. No, if you want to solve racism and everything, I would submit that you do what you did, which is seek to serve some people that you have no idea about and just go help from a place of love. So I'm just sharing that with you, because just so you know that you deeply inspire me and many more people than you probably know. And so I just want you to take that on board. And what do you have? What would you like the world to know? In terms of things you've learned, or insights you've been given, or revelations, or just where you're at right now, man, about this situation? This is a platform for you. What do you want the world to know? What would you like to share?
I like the world to know that wars is the most poisonous thing that can damage any society. It doesn't affect one generation, two generations, it affects multiple generations. That's it. That's all I can tell you.
I mean, it's well said. That's the whole point of this conversation. I think two things out of this. One is that, hey man, you got some friends. Right now we're on Zoom. Hopefully one day we can meet, play, play soccer, play whatever you want. Maybe we'll whoop your ass and we win, or maybe you win. But it's the beginning of a beautiful friendship. Like Brian said, Wake Up Warrior is a network of men, influential men, and Brian and I will begin the dialogue, and whether that be via email or whatever that is, we'll begin the dialogue of understanding who do we know that can help you, right? Who do we know in the medical industry, international medical industry, international doctors that have influences that can help us get you going somewhere where you can continue doing your passion, which is serving others. You know, if you're called to go to, I don't know, man, Africa or anywhere else, you know, you go, right? Because that's what the calling is. Like, you have the skills, you have the talents, you're trained for it, and people need help. I think being stuck in where you are right now is not serving you, is not serving those that need your help and your skills. So you have tremendous amount of skills, and the least that we can do is trying to find different venues and channels and move that on. I don't know, Brian, like whatever it takes, man, fundraising, whatever, man, like we'll just have to put our thoughts together. If we say that we're his friend, then it's easy. Everybody's friend because they, hey, you're my friend. But like, why don't we do something, right? Yep. Why don't we take an action, because that's what we do. Yep. We don't just say somebody's our friend. Our action says that we are friends, and we have zero expectation, nothing. Like it's kind of like you when you went for 7 years. There was no expectation. So if anything, like, just want to let you know that this is what we do, and this is what this brotherhood is, and somehow, somewhere, you got yourself involved, man. So it's kind of too late right now, man. You're involved. And so we want to help you. That's one thing. But we also want to continue to have a dialogue and continue to have the message of the children spoken. The more this message of the children that is spoken to the current adults of today, the more they can make wiser decisions and better decisions for the current children of the world. And so that is a mission that we will not stop feeding. And we would love to have you inside of many other discussions to come in the future. You know, you have been in the front line. You have seen the tears. You have seen the scars. You have seen blood. You have seen pain. You have seen pain from the parents. You've absorbed so much in you that it would do you and humanity very good as you express a lot that you have witnessed, not to make people feel bad or anything, but just to say these people were there.
Yeah.
These people came to these hospitals. These people mattered.
Yeah.
You know, these children mattered. And 6 years, 7 years from now, maybe they hear a story and maybe they'll remember that, oh, I remember there was a doctor that did this for me. Where can I find this doctor? You know, where can I send them a letter? You matter. You were there. Your colleagues matter. The nurses, the people that help, their name matter, because so many didn't make it. So many died in the process of serving. They matter. And these are the new heroes of the world. Unfortunately, as a society, globally, everywhere, we have created ourselves heroes out of fame and money. Those that have money and that are famous, that are heroes. But COVID-19 has kind of erased all that. It says the true heroes are just gems that are hidden. They are the soldiers that went to war and that left their families behind from any country. They are the men that had the courage to fight. War is a horrible thing. Civil war, it's even more than any fucking war. Just horrors of it. There are so many that witnessed this, and there are so many that have been part of it. And there are so many that helped. I mean, this is not new. You go back and you think about, you know, how the Jewish people, like, they were hiding in Poland, in the basements in that period of time, and how many people were killed by the German. It just doesn't matter by who. It's always been a man. Well, we are very good at say they're German, they're Pakistani, they're French, they're white, they're black, they're Arab, they're Chinese. It's a man that does this to another man. And now, for the first time ever, we actually have a voice of justice that says stop labeling it. Stop creating a separation. This group and that group and all these conditions.
Yeah.
Political refugees, political prisoners. How many fucking people died because all they did, they wrote an article in the newspaper? How many journalists were killed in their own house? Like, these are stories that, like, no one hears about. The suppression of what's taken place in countries beyond Middle East. The suppression is taking place right now in China and Russia, and what is happening there. The communist regime, or the dictatorship, like the thirst for blood. The only way to put a stop to this is to continue talking about justice, stand by justice. I'm going to have you consider one thing, my friend, that if you went to Syria, it's because you went to serve justice. Because in your eyes, it was unjust that people needed help and you had all this talent and you said, no, God didn't give me all this talent so I can sit home. So I go and I risk. And at the end of it, you may not have money. You may not be the wealthiest guy. You may be trapped. You may be this. But one thing for sure is you have God in your heart. And that doesn't matter what color you are, what color I am, where am I from or not from. What matters is I know, you know, and Brian knows. So we're going to go to final words here. Dr. Abraham, final words as we wrap it up. And we'll definitely do multiple of these calls again to kind of like build upon the storyline, because it's just not a, hey man, it's not a show. It's not a fucking, like, this is a journey that needs to be told. This is a story that needs to continue to be told and told and told and told and told. So Brian, final words, my friend, Dr. Abraham.
Yeah, so the last thing that you just said there, Coach Sam, was the one thing that he has is God. The one thing he has is also his own integrity. And just as you were talking about, that's the one thing that is in absolute the rarest of supplies right now. So many of the things that are happening in the world, the reason it's so triggering is that it's so much of it is not based in any level of integrity, because the people that are saying and doing the things are not even in the least bit integrity with themselves. They're looking at outside of themselves to find the solution. But like, what does it look like to be truly integrity with yourself? Here's what it looks like. It's having a lot of skill sets that you know can help other people, and that when you hear a call that takes you into a deadly and dangerous place that could be the end of your life, you go. That's integrity. And that's the example, again, to me, that is the example of what it looks like to solve a lot of the problems that we're faced with today. But it starts with, you didn't ask anybody else, you just sought integrity with yourself. And you knew that if you didn't go, you would feel the liability of that. But you did go. And here you are 7 years later, inspiring me and Coach Sam and the hundreds or thousands of other people that'll hear this story. Because you made that choice 7 years ago, 8 years ago. You made that choice in integrity. And that's the thing that comes away from me from this, Coach Sam and Dr. Omar. Like, I'm just very grateful that God brought all of our paths together. It's providential. It's not coincidental. And yeah, you're not alone now. Like, you've got more brothers in the world now. There's even people that you don't even know that are thinking of you as a brother. And so just know that. And this is not the end of this. May be the end of this episode and this conversation, but this is not the end. So thank you, Coach Sam, for putting it together.
And we may be very small people, that part of your network. You may be heard by much bigger people than us.
Yeah.
You know, organization and networks and news, and they'll come after you and they'll help you way, way, way more than us. But one thing that you just should know is that we have you in our heart. So we may not be nobody. We may be very small. We may be two guys here. It doesn't matter. That's two guys that believe, and that could equal 20,000 people. So we go to you, my friend, Dr. Abraham, as we finalize this call.
Yeah. Thank you, Brian. Thank you, Sam, for this talk. I just want to tell that I'll try to write my story. Of course, I did write my medical experience, my surgical experience of 6 years working in difficult situations and difficult circumstances with low resources. I want to try to write my memories, my day-to-day life, the people I met, the hard times I passed through. I hope this will help one day.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yes, as you write it, we could have conversations around it on our next conversation. So please document, because if you don't, there will be no witness left to do that. Like, you are the witness, my friend. So I want to thank you for joining us from across the world. The good news is, where you are right now, the shawarma sandwiches are very good. I remember, like, you grab this big, huge pita bread, and the guy cocks it with like a huge knife. So that's pretty special about Turkey. So they have amazing chicken shawarma sandwich. So enjoy one of them.
Amazing beef shawarma.
Yes, with extra hummus and Pepsi, and just when you eat that, remember us that it's lunchtime, I believe.
Actually, in Syria, they are the best in chicken shawarma, and in Turkey, they are best in beef shawarma. So I've tried all kinds.
You're speaking right to Coach Sam's heart right there. You just keep talking shawarma. That's it.
Yeah.
So hey, we look forward to talking to you on our next call. Meanwhile, Brian and I will be in touch, and we'll start it off, man. We'll start asking around. We'll start passing some names and contacts and organization. And this is not going to be the end of it. This is just the beginning. Thank you, my friend. Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Dr.
Thank you, Coach Sam.
Have a nice day. Bye.
Take care, brother.